So you plan on getting your first credit card. It's a good thing you clicked on this video because when I first got my credit card, I wish I would have knew the things I knew now before getting my first one. Because till this day, I still regret making that first decision of getting my first credit card and not looking what that card was offering. So in this video, I want to break down 5 things that I wish I would have knew before getting my first credit card. So if you're new to this channel, my name's Andy. I'm a senior programmer analyst that loves to talk about personal finances. Here in this channel, we like to talk about credit cards, budgeting, and financial tools that can possibly help you guys out. But enough of that, let's go ahead and get started with the video. So starting off, I want to state that credit cards are not free money. This is the very first mistake a lot of users tend to get into because once you get that first credit limit, you automatically think that that's going to be your money. But in reality, that's actually the bank's money that's letting you borrow money on their behalf. Now, let's say for example, if you want to actually spend a decent amount of money and you only have $1,200 in your checking account, but have $5,000 on your credit card. That does not mean to spend $3,000 to $4,000 on a credit card because then at that point, you're already putting yourself in debt. This is where the discipline of owning a credit card comes into play because if you're not able to manage your money, then maybe credit cards are not really for you because once you get over that limit, it gets you in the habit and getting stuck into the second part of this video, which is minimum payments. Now, minimum payments is another trap. But before I explain more in depth what I mean by minimum payments, we have to first understand that the bank offers you 3 different options of making payments. Those payments are the minimum payments, statement balance, and paying your balance off in full. Now, if you're doing minimum payments on credit cards or don't know what minimum payment is basically the bank is allowing you to do a minimum payment, and let's say the minimum payment is $40 a month. This just goes to show that you're being responsible of doing at least the minimum payment to where that does not affect your credit score. But on behind the scenes is actually a trap. So the trap is that you're going to be paying more towards the bank because the higher interest, because banks usually roughly go about 15 to 20% or even higher on interest. So in reality, that $40 and you're paying 20% of that towards the bank, really, I think it will be like what, $15 to $30 that you're going to be going towards the principal, and the rest is going to be going towards the bank, which in reality makes the payments a lot longer for you to pay off whatever you owe on that specific credit card. Now that's important to know because if you're doing more than what you're spending, like how I mentioned earlier, if you're spending way out your means, then this is where a lot of people tend to get a lot in debt in because they're going to be owing many cards and only doing minimum payment, and it was going to take them forever to actually pay off cards. Now there are methods to get out of debt with credit cards, but that is something I'm not going to get really into. I'm trying to educate you guys to not even start getting into debt or get into those scenarios where you have to start using those methods. Which leads me into the next one is going to be the statement balance. The statement balance is another form of way to actually pay your credit card bill. With the statement balance, when you pay it off in full every single month, the bank does not have anything to charge you interest on. So now you might be getting confused on this because how can the minimum payment be charging interest, but if you do the statement balance, then you're getting 0. So just to make it into simpler terms, the statement balance is basically you're paying everything that you owed or you actually bought within a certain time frame. And if you pay it off within the statement balance, the bank does not really have anything to charge you interest on. And so this is where the credit card hacking starts coming to play and you start using the rewards that some of these cards provide. Now, this is the method that I personally use because I like to not owe any debt or interest to any of the credit card issues that I personally use. And so if you're able to do this and you're able to manage your money correctly, then this is the route that I would recommend many people to go to because we do not try to give money to the bank just because we bought something that we wanted. But this is where it does come in the reality of being responsible and being disciplined and not going over your specific means and getting into that position of owing the bank money for borrowing their money for something that we basically couldn't afford off the start. As for the last option, is going to be the paying your balance in full. Now this is kind of similar to the statement balance, but the only difference is that you're going to be paying your statement balance and whatever you currently owe or what you added within the next billing cycle. So yes, that may be kind of confusing. For me, the way I think about it is that if you're doing your statement balance, you're going to be paying for the previous month of when you use that card. And so you're going to be behind a month every time. Yes, that may be like difficult to keep up with, but if you're budgeting the correct way, then doing that option is not that hard because you would know exactly how much you're spending. So rule of thumb here is that I like to budget. And so if you're not keeping track of what you're spending, unless you know exactly what you have on top of your head, kudos to you because that is very difficult for me. So I tend to write everything down on a Google spreadsheet. And if you need to get that or need help with budgeting, I do have a video with that I'll link here on the top right corner of this video. That way you can actually see what you're spending within a month-to-month basis. So when that statement balance comes in, or if you want to pay the statement balance in full, it won't be as difficult or as harsh on yourself, not having to deal with the worry of overspending on certain bills or being out your budget. So yes, it is very confusing. Like I stated, it's just you have to be very aware of how these statements work, because once you get out of that loop, you start being charged interest towards the bank. And so it just defeats the whole purpose of the credit cards, of using them responsibly. Another thing I learned is that not all credit cards are the same. So you see a lot of YouTubers talk about 10 plus credit cards, 15 plus credit cards, and you may be wondering, well, why do you have so many? Well, credit cards fall under 3 different categories in my opinion. They fall under a secured credit card, a cashback credit card, and a travel card. A secured credit card is for people who have no credit at all or are trying to rebuild their credit based on the mistakes they made in the past years. Usually with a card like this, they're required to do a security deposit of $200 to $500. So what this does, or what it means, is that you're going to be giving that specific amount to the bank, and that's going to be your credit limit on your secured credit card. Now this shows the bank or the credit card issuer that you're going to be responsible of paying your monthly bills on that specific card. The moment you start paying your bills or get behind on bills, they can actually close your account and keep that $500 that you deposited. Now let's say if you're a person that's being responsible and actually doing the monthly bills, then you're actually gonna get your money back within a certain time frame. Usually these credit card issuers require 6 months to a year to show that you're gonna be responsible and they can actually trust you with a credit limit. When that moment happens, they give you back that money, and they also tend to increase your credit limit of maybe $500 more. So let's just say, for example, if you give them $500, you do the 6 months to a year to show that you can actually pay it, then you get that $500 back and they'll increase your credit limit to $1,000. Now, not every credit card issuer increases your credit limit. Sometimes they just keep it at the amount that you securely deposited. But this is where you start building that trust, and you can actually open up credit cards or different credit card issuers to gain rewards or points, which leads me to the next type of credit card, which is a cashback credit card. Now, a cashback credit card is basically you being rewarded for using their credit card. We're gonna keep this simple. We're gonna use a Capital One Quicksilver credit card, which allows you to get 1.5% cash back on all purchases. And so the way this works is that when you go out to the store and actually start buying anything that you need in responsible means, right? So once we do this, at the end of the month, you're gonna get rewarded 1.5% cash back on all purchases that you made within a specific month. Now, this is why a lot of people tend to use credit cards, because they like to get rewarded for things that they're already going to be spending. So once you build that trust with your credit card issuer, you can actually start getting other cards to allow you to get rewarded compared to a secured credit card. Because secured credit cards don't really reward you. They're just showing you to get into the credit card space and being responsible. This is technically an upgrade from that card. This is why a lot of people like to be in the credit card space, because depending on the card, you sometimes get higher rewards compared to other cards, and which hence is why a lot of people tend to have a lot of credit cards, so that way they can maximize every dollar they spend and get their cashback value with what they're basically spending on a day-to-day basis. Although cashback credit cards sound great and they tend to come in at a $0 annual fee, you can actually get into the travel credit cards as well now. With the travel credit cards, they usually range between $95 a year to almost $900 a year. So that is a big difference on the credit cards, and if you're barely beginning. But just know that if you have cashback cards and you're barely beginning and starting to get into the rhythm of following this process of being responsible, you can actually start transferring those cashback points into a travel credit card that allows you to actually travel for free. I say free because you do have to pay some taxes and fees when you book a flight, or you can actually book hotels with the points that you're gaining. I did forget to mention that in the cashback cards, you don't have to redeem it. You can actually keep it in there to accumulate to where you can pay off a complete credit card bill, and basically it's no cost to you. But if you do get into the travel side of things, you can actually transfer or use all the points you saved up into the travel card and then disperse it out within those travel partners. I'm not gonna get too far in depth what those travel partners are, because it does vary on each travel credit card that you do plan on getting. Just make sure to do your research to see if that card is gonna be benefiting you. Now, I explained different credit card types. And the reason why I leave this as a mistake that many people fall under is because a lot of people want to fall under the status of owning a metal card. And metal cards are usually within the travel credit cards and paying annual fees. So a lot of people actually pay these annual fees and not using any of the benefits that a travel card would give them, and they're only using it for like cash back. So basically, if you're not going to be traveling, get a card that's going to be valuing you, whether it's a metal card or a plastic card. Just know that if you're using something that would fall under your daily spends, then end up getting that card that is going to be benefiting you on cash back. Because I've seen many people do this. I've seen people get the Amex Gold or the Chase Sapphire and they only use it for cash back, which defeats the whole purpose of paying an annual fee on the card that you're not using all the benefits on. So don't be that person to fall under that, because if you know that you're not going to be traveling and paying an annual fee, you're better off getting a card that's going to be getting you a 0 annual fee, but cash back at the same time. So a lot of people will argue that people are team cash back, team travel. Just know what you're going to be spending your money on and what you value. Something that's also often overlooked is going to be a product change. And product changes are very common with people who actually want to get out of their secured credit card and move into a card that's going to earn them cash back. Well, that sounds great and all to close the old credit card, but you have to keep in mind that once you close that credit card, it can affect your credit score on the credit age. Now, why is that important? Is because when you close out a credit card that's older than a couple years, it's going to be removing all the credit history, showing that you've been paying your monthly payments correctly every single month, which helps boost your credit score. So usually what I recommend people to do with this kind of option is to do a product change to change into a card that can give them cashback value. Now, what this does, it prevents you from getting a hard pull on the credit card, and it helps you keep the age of the credit card. Yes, it's pros and cons here, because a lot of people will argue, well, why would I do a product change when I can do a sign-on bonus with another credit card? Well, you are right, technically, if you're planning on using that card just to have for, let's say, one purchase out of the year, just to keep that account open. In my opinion, I would probably just value of just doing a product change, so that way I can use that card a little bit more, depending what the credit card issuer provides or what other credit cards they can give me rewards on. But if you're not going to be doing that or want to get a card that's going to give you a sign-on bonus, then probably do keep in mind that to keep that card open. If not, go ahead and do a product change so where you can value that card a lot longer than what you would with just a secured credit card that won't give you no benefits. Now, the last option we're going to be going over is the due date. Now, a lot of people turn on the auto pay option, which allows them to automatically pay their bills without having to worry about missing a payment, which is very great to have turned on just in case if you do manage multiple credit cards. But for me, at least, what I learned is that I would rather have all my credit cards be paid on the same day, because when I saw my bank account go up and down throughout the month and not being really organized of when my bills are going to be paid, it made me worry that maybe I may be going into the overdraft part of the bank account, which is something you never want to do. Now, what I ended up doing is actually going on each app and actually changing the due date to what's available for within each credit card issuer. This is important to do your research, because some cards don't do specific due dates for some reason. And I thought that was kind of weird, because some banks allow you to do any day and some other banks only allow you to do a couple of days in the middle of the month. So for me, at least, I like to schedule my bills in the middle of the month. That's going to be 2 to 3 days after my actual paycheck. Now, this may vary on your own self. So if you like to pay all your bills in the beginning of the month, you can find or see what dates are available for our cards to do within the first couple of weeks. Or you can do the middle, or you can do the end. So only you yourself would know when is the best time to actually pay your full bills. I like to do it this way because I see the big chunk and it just comes out and I already know that it's going to be paid for basically. So I like to have my plans like that. And this one may not be a big mistake a lot of people tend to fall under, but I can see how people can get into the overdraft section and seeing that different bills are being paid and not knowing or keeping up with what dates are going to be pulled from your bank account. So after going over each specific point, I hope you guys learned and valued all the information I gave you. Because if you're barely beginning your credit card journey, just don't make these mistakes that I listed, because I was actually one of those people that made some of these mistakes. And those are mistakes you have to live with. So if you're barely beginning, make sure you look at the correct credit cards that you're getting and make sure you're valuing everything that you're going to be getting out of that card. Now, as soon as you actually get longer down the path, then you're probably going to see how it's going to be all coming together towards the end, especially making your payments on time, selecting which cards you're going to be valuing, and how to maximize every category to make more money on cash back or to collect the points and go into a travel credit card. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. And as always, try to keep things simple, and I'll see you on the next one.